What is up guys, Teal from G here and welcome to F1 2017 Driving School. So we are going to be starting off with the basics, cornering and braking, but I am planning to do driving without traction control, driving in the wet, and two new ones which are driving without the racing line and how to save your tyres. So here we are for the first lesson. It's corners that require a lot of braking, so as you can see you've always got to find your braking point. Clipping the curb a little bit too much unsettles the car a little bit, but being very smooth on the throttle, which is very important. You've got to have a feel for the grip really, which can really just come with experience. So as you can see, your braking point is just after that chicane starts, or but in between when the chicane starts and the 100-meter board. And as you can see, makes for a very nice apex speed and just an exit in general. A little bit of oversteer. This is done on a default setup. So as you can see, this is where we started to brake now, and after you start to brake, you can see full brakes up until you start to steer, or just before you start to steer. You can be very daring and do it just as you start to steer, but for this one I did it just before that, but you pretty much get the point. As soon as you start to steer your wheel, you've got to start lifting off the brakes. That's how you're going to avoid the lockups, and that's how you're going to avoid going straight on. As you can see with the oversteer there, always keep the throttle at the same amount of appliance when you've got that little bit of oversteer. Never try and increase it, because you're just going to spin off and it's not going to work. So here we are for another corner that requires very heavy braking. So as you can see here, we're going to find our braking point. It's between the 150 meter board and the 100 meter board. How do I know that? Well, it's trial and error, guys. That's how I learnt it. And as you can see here, you're probably going to think to yourself, oh, hang on a minute, you lifted off the brakes well before you started to steer. Well, I was on the default setup and I was going a little bit cautious, but you will actually start to steer. I really completely lift off them as soon as I start to steer, and you'll see I knew that I'd broken too early because I was actually applying a bit of the throttle there. But yeah, really as soon as I start to steer, I completely lifted off them. So it is pretty much still the same rules applied. And out the corner there, as you can see, once again being very progressive with the throttle, a little bit of oversteer, and then after that oversteer I fully apply the throttle. As you can see here, just showing a demonstration on the replay cam. Yeah, very smooth, very tidy. So then here we go into a very long flowing corner. As you can see here, this is what personally I always like to do, and you really should do it yourself. Always keep your eyes on the apex. Now I know you're probably thinking, oh, that's simple, but you know, it really does help. And as you can see, the turning point here, I'll just give it away. It's that little tarmac patch there. But if you look at the apex, you'll get the perfect turning point. Starting to brake here now at this little chicane as soon as it starts to end, and also really keeping my eyes fixated on that apex, being smooth on the throttle on the exit. Just one big smooth turn of the wheel. As you can see, you don't steer so much, okay? It will just, one, in the race, wear your tyres out, and two, it's not as fast. You've really just got to be just the absolute bare minimum of steering. That is how it works on the F1 games. Now here we are for low speed corners that don't require too much braking. As you can see, 100 meter board is your braking point. And so as you can see, coming onto the brakes now, as soon as I really start to steer, obviously let go of the brakes. Also, really be smooth on the throttle. These sort of corners where, you know, it's kind of half a traction, you've always got to be smooth on the throttle, you know, feel for the car. Don't just be rough, don't slam on the throttle. God, it's almost like a traction control lesson. But as you can see, it is cornering in a way, because it's the exit of a corner, being smooth with that throttle, and yeah. So here we go for another long flowing corner at China. Now this white line in front of you is your turning point. As you can see, keeping your eyes always fixated on the upcoming apex. You know, just trying to get the perfect turn in as you can. And now coming into this corner here, a little bit of braking, lots of bit. Now once again, be very smooth on the throttle, trying to get a feel for the grip as you apply more throttle on the exit. Now I've said possibly the hardest and most irritating corner in Formula 1, and that is the just awful, horrible left-hander in Bahrain. Now you've got to use a special tactic for this corner if you really want to get the fast lap time. So as you can see here, that little kink there is where you're going to start braking just before that, but you've basically got to trail brake. Now, this will come with experience, guys, but as you can see, just slowly lifting off the brakes, gradually as I'm inputting more steering and getting closer to that apex, as you can see, and being obviously, as usual, smooth on the throttle. Could have been a bit more aggressive on the throttle, apparently, obviously, and it lost me a little bit of time, not going to lie. This is a very, very hard thing to master. You've got to, though, if you really want to get this type of corner right. It's hard to do, guys, but you just got to try and watch the example over and over again, practice it for yourself, and that's basically how you're going to master it. That's the only thing I can say. Practice does make perfect. So I hope this video helped you. Do make sure to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.